This is Our Side of Addiction, the podcast. I'm Amanda Bork. Let's go. Welcome in. Full and complete exposure, or not exposure. No, I'm not completely exposing myself. What's that word? Disclosure. Oh no, we're starting off rough. Disclosure. I just woke up from a nap, and it may or may not be 7 p.m. when I'm recording this. I am trying to get some extra content for you recorded, and I don't know what is going on with me, but I'm exhausted at 4 and 5 p.m. And that's such a weird time because I think, okay, just go to bed at 9. Just a few more hours, stay awake and go to bed. But I'm very weak to the sensation of being tired. And I usually give in to that experience or that sensation because I don't like it. And it feels very good for me to sleep and nap. Yet sometimes when you wake up, you're groggy and you're saying exposure instead of something else. Full disclosure, I just got up from a nap and I don't know how that's going to play out tonight. Am I going to be able to sleep before midnight? Did I just mess up my sleep cycle? We'll never know. Or maybe I'll fill you in. You'll never know. Who knows? So that's where we're at today. Waking up from naps at 7 p.m. I don't know. It sounds irresponsible, and maybe I am a little bit of that. Here we are. Let's talk about the subject of the day. And the subject is stable recovery. What does that look like a year plus into recovery? Because that's what we consider stable. Once someone passes a year, they're really, I'm not going to say they're 1,000% in their recovery, but they're very strong and stabilized in their recovery. They're in a very good place. Their brain is going into that healing process. About usually takes 12 to 14 months to start progressing back to normal, to repairing all of the damage done to their brain during addiction. Takes about a full 2 years for the brain to recover completely, if it does. At that 1 year mark, we see a lot of changes in our loved ones. And this is really good to talk about for you, the loved one of addicts, because oftentimes it can feel as though you're in the dark about this whole recovery thing. What's happening? What are they doing? What should it look like? What should I be doing? What should I be looking for? What's an indicator of success? What's an indicator of a backslide? It can feel like you're left in the dark and you have so many questions, so many things just forever go unanswered. We're going to fill in a little bit of that gap today. As you know, recovery is a process. There's the detox stage. Then they're going to, hopefully, some kind of intense inpatient thing, treatment for 30, 60, 90 days. Then they're transitioning to outpatient. Again, 60, 90 days, maybe more. Then they're transitioning to sober living. How long are they staying there? Maybe again, 60, 90 more days. Are there any relapses? Because if there's a relapse, we restart the process There's a lot of spoken words, promises, apologies. I'll do better. I'm feeling better. It's different this time. Doesn't feel very stable in that state. But once our loved ones hit that 1 year mark, it's extremely gratifying. It's something very much you should be celebrating for your loved one. Man, when they hit that 1 year mark, I mean, go all out. Like it's the 50th anniversary of a marriage. Like it's somebody's 30th birthday. We want to go all out for them. Really validate them. Really just shine and show up for them. Because that is a huge accomplishment. But you might start feeling some relief. It's been a year. That's a great amount of time to have under their belts for recovery. Can you finally stop holding your breath? Can you finally stop tracking them or peeking over your own shoulder for the next disaster? When do you get to relax and sink into the fact that, okay, maybe they are stable. Maybe it was different this time. Maybe all those promises, they will follow through on them. It's exhausting, micromanaging them for your own sake, particularly. Of course, for theirs, but you're mostly doing it for your own sake. Watching tones of voice, seeing if there's any changes, monitoring sleep patterns, checking for facial expressions, maybe even speech patterns, checking in on their spending habits. Are they gambling? Where did that check go to? Where did that amount of money go to? Maybe you still feel scared about missing their calls. Is there a shift in energy? Because yesterday they were happy and today they're kind of moody. Is that an indicator that they've relapsed? Any kind of emotional changes for you, for them? There's so many things we're being vigilant about when we love an addict. Warranted or not, I'm not going to say you shouldn't do any of these things, but it's very common for us to be doing those things. Do you still need to do it at the 1 year plus mark? Is this real? Can you trust them? Can you trust yourself? Are you being naive? Are they fooling you again? Are they putting on a really good show and you're just not catching it? Are you in denial? How long will this actually last? Okay, yeah, sure, it's been a year, over a year. When are the chips gonna fall? Is this even real? This change? We kind of get programmed to be a cynic. We're very skeptical of our loved ones, even after the 1 year mark of recovery. And by the way, very rightfully so, you've been gutted and traumatized, heartbroken, used, abused, manipulated, coerced, intimidated, amongst many other things. Of course you're a cynic. Of course you're a skeptic. Of course for you 1 year, okay, yes, it's a decent amount of time, but they were an addict for a decade. You know, a decade as an addict matches 1 year recovery. That ain't shit. We're still on the fence here with this. I'm still susceptible and vulnerable to any collapse of this. I definitely don't want to get my hopes up again for the 50th time. I don't want to be hurt. And that's something that's very difficult to navigate, this balance of wanting to be optimistic for them, but self-preserving at the same time. After all, that is our default self-preservation. Behind everything is this very primal part of the brain that preserves your life at any cost, no matter what. And that part gets ignited whenever you sense or feel like something's a threat. That part takes over. It's not that you're a bad person or you're a cynic or a critic or you can't be happy for someone or you're wishing a downfall. It's your brain telling you we have to preserve ourselves. I'm going to make sure you don't get hurt again. I'm going to make sure we don't have that same experience again because it almost took us out. And that's tough. I will say that long-term recovery, back it up, any recovery is not linear. It's not a straight shot. It's not perfection. It's not that anyone knows everything about what they're doing or where they're going. It's still murky. The water is still a little muddy after a year. But who's perfect anyway? Not you, not me. We definitely can't expect our addicted loved ones in this phase of stable recovery to be perfect because it's not in human nature. So we don't want to set ourselves up or them to fail. That's very important to have that distinction, okay? And the expectation matches that distinction. Okay, what is stable recovery? Let's talk about that first. Let's compare sobriety with stable recovery. Now, the term sobriety is very broad, and when someone says that, it just means they've stopped using substance. Doesn't mean anything else. They're no longer using or engaging in that behavior. I don't drink. I don't use substance. I don't have an addiction either, but I will sometimes say, oh yeah, I'm sober. I don't do any of that. I just don't use substance, okay? Now, we'll have a different episode about this because there's the difference, obviously, between being sober and being in recovery. Abstaining versus being in recovery. There's a distinct difference there. And let me make a note right now. We'll do an episode just on that distinction. But for right now, we're just thinking about sober means they've stopped using the substance. Recovery is what we want from our addicts, really. This is when they're investing time, effort, energy, and genuinely making changes of themselves. This is the part that includes the personal development, the lifestyle changes, the identity shift. This is when they experience the emotional growth, behavioral changes, accountability, relational healing, and identity reconstruction. I wouldn't even say reconstruction really, because their whole entire identity has to shift. But whatever, we'll leave it there. They have nervous system stabilization in that work. And their entire lifestyle is transformed. Now, when someone is in recovery, it's very much encouraged that they live an honest lifestyle. No lying, no cheating, no being deceitful. Very clean, clear lifestyle. Yet someone who's sober, all they really did was stop using. They haven't changed anything necessarily. They haven't done the growth or personal development work or really change their lifestyle. They can still be dishonest and manipulative and impulsive. They can still be stuck psychologically, be irresponsible and volatile. But I'm sober. Do you see the distinction? So just stopping a substance doesn't really mean anything unless there are changes to their life and self along with that. That's why we want recovery, not just sobriety. Now, are these terms used interchangeably? Yeah. You will hear people say, "Oh, I'm in recovery," but you might also hear them say, "I'm sober." So sometimes in the community, people will use it interchangeably, but I want you just on your own to differentiate for yourself and your loved one, whether they're just sober, stop using substance and nothing else, versus in recovery where they've overhauled their entire life. Just so that we can gain a little bit more clarity on the terms and the variance there. When our loved ones are in recovery, you're going to see changes in their impulsivity. They're going to be repairing or altering relationships, perhaps changing their employment. I see that a lot. Complete career changes. Definitely going to see an alteration in the structuring of their life or day-to-day. They're going to have a different purpose or meaning for themselves and their life. They'll have stronger social support. You'll see them with new friends, going and doing new events. And they have an increased grasp on emotional regulation. They're taught a lot about emotions and strategies around their emotional regulation, and you're going to see them implement that. Really, recovery is this visible lifestyle change. What are the mental and emotional markers of stable recovery? What exactly is it going to be looking like, Amanda? Tell me. The first one we're going to pop off with increased emotional regulation. Emotions are very difficult for an addict to navigate when they're first in recovery. First 6 months at least are going to be the toughest. We have to understand that for however long they've been addicted, their emotions have not only been dysregulated, but they've used their addiction to escape emotions, escape their mental state, escape physical states. They're not accustomed to feeling emotions or processing them in healthy ways. And with addiction, it feeds into even more this unhealthy emotional state. A lot of rage, numbness, panic, impulsivity, defensiveness, blame, emotional extremes, because I'm sure your addict has called you when there's a crisis and you hear the story and you're like, that is not a crisis at all. One time my younger sister, actually this whole situation was a pivotal point when I came to some realizations, but one time my sister called me, it was after midnight, 12:30 something in the morning. And I initially didn't answer the phone because, it's late and she woke me up and I had to be at work in the morning and I was pissed and I was just exhausted with her bullshit. And I put maybe the first 2 calls that she called me. I put them to voicemail. And she kept calling me. And then my gut told me I was being bad. I was being a bad sister, because what if she's dying right now and giving me my last call? I have to answer this phone. I answered the phone in a panic because I riled myself up thinking she was dying. And do you know why she was calling me after midnight? She had a fight with her boyfriend. Yeah. She had a fight with her boyfriend, and my guess is I was last on the list. You know, she had exhausted all other resource. No one else was answering or wanted to pick up her call. And she called me because it was a crisis and it was an emergency. And when I answered, this is what she said. Why don't you answer my phone calls? You need to answer me when I call you. And because I was in a panic state thinking she was dying, I was like, what is it? What's going on? What do you need? And then she proceeds to tell me about a boyfriend. Man, I've never been so pissed. Well, I have, but I was pissed. This chick is stepping on me. This chick is really using me, wearing me down to the bone and using me. I'm just trash to her. She doesn't give a damn about me. Anyways, that was my pivotal moment. But the point of the story was that at 12:30 at night, her emergency, which I have to answer the call to, was that she had a fight with her boyfriend. Now, mind you, my sister and I, we hadn't been close in a long time. She had not put effort into the relationship in a long time because of her addiction. I didn't know what was going on, but that's why she wasn't really in a relationship with me. So this was not even something we ever did, was call each other at midnight because we had a fight with our boyfriend. That wasn't how our dynamic worked. But an addict will make an extreme out of anything, and they will use your care and emotions as a manipulation tactic. You must answer my phone. You have to answer me when I need something. That bullshit, they're very entitled. And that emotional dysregulation and chaos translates to you. Now it gets offloaded onto you. Yet, when our loved ones are in stable recovery, they learn how to process their emotions on their own. And not everything's an emergency. Now, we're going to see spikes here and there. Yeah. Please give them some grace. There will be overwhelmed times where they actually need you, or they are spiraling over something. Give them space and be there for them, especially if they're in long-term recovery. A year plus. If your loved one is a year plus and they're spiraling or overwhelmed or need you because they're in a bit of a panic, please help them and be there for them and allow them to process that with you if they're reaching out. Giving them a little bit of courtesy on that, because it's a lot of work regulating emotions, especially going from the extreme of addiction to being sober. A year is great time, but a year is also not a lot of time. Like, what was I doing last year this time? I have no idea. Like, it's not even too much time. So, that being said, they're going to have better tolerance to discomfort. They will be able to sit with their emotions and navigate them strategically. Some of the best shares that I hear at the groups at the rehab where I facilitate meetings are guys who have this barrier of anger, processing anger or managing anger, and they find their way in rehab of dealing with anger, sitting with it, being with it, and learning about meditation or breath work or morning routines or self-talk that's positive and affirming. And they share these revelations or these routines that they have, or how they're managing their anger, how they're not allowing others to control them via emotion. It makes me emotional because I am so proud of them and they do such amazing work in there, and it's very pivotal for them. But they're investing a lot in that emotional regulation, and they're also finding communication around that. Maybe they didn't even have the verbiage to express how they were feeling, and they're learning to identify and express emotion. I don't like when you do that. That was extreme. That was a little rude. They're learning how to even navigate that communication with each other in those rooms. Because, I mean, mind you, they're with each other all dang day, like shoulder to shoulder all day long. You're gonna have some tension in there, but they learn to communicate and stay calm within that, and how to self-regulate without the use of substance, which is phenomenal for them. It's amazing. The next one, increased self-awareness. People in stable recovery, a year plus, have very good, or should at least be at a very good level of self-awareness. Genuinely taking accountability and responsibility. Having this insight into themselves and their actions and their thoughts and their emotions. They really should be able to reflect on themselves. They'll take ownership. They'll kind of step away from the lying and denial and avoidance and really just stand up with a big, proud chest and own it. Even if it was a mistake, even if they were wrong, they'll own it. They have a lot of emotional honesty. I feel this way, I feel that way, I feel overwhelmed, this is too much for me, I need to back away. That's great awareness. I mean, to be honest, most of us out here don't have that type of self-awareness, but they should be or are working toward that level at that year plus mark. And they recognize the harm of their past. Perhaps that's harm that was done onto them and or harm that was done from them onto others. We don't want to guilt them, of course, but they're more open to having conversations around this because of their self-awareness. And it's not being dramatic. It's not these long, drawn-out apologies. It's definitely not performative on their side. It's sturdy and it's self-aware. The next one, there's reduced chaos just around them in general, which, phew, you can breathe, you can sink a few inches deeper into your lush seat. Less chaos is what we want. Less emergency situations, less explosions, less disappearance, less financial disaster, less manipulation, less lies, less of that emotional roller coaster. Cheat, 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 cheat. Slimming down, cutting it out. Much far less of that. Now, before the 1 year mark, you're going to have more surface of this. It will be more of the ebb and flow of this because they're still trying to navigate and stabilize. But after the 1 year, there's a really big difference in them. And because you're going to see that, if you can lean into that a little bit, have a little bit of optimism, if that's something in your range, you too can take comfort in the reduction of chaos. Your nervous system can relax a little bit. You can slow down a little bit. And you can take reassurance in the fact that, okay, they can regulate. There aren't emergencies. They can be emotionally stable. Those were the mental and emotional changes. Let's look at some behavioral markers of stable recovery. And these are good. You're going to like these. Consistency. Nothing more amazing in any relationship dynamic than consistency. Showing up when they say they're going to. Maintaining routines. Paying bills on time. Keeping to their commitments. Communicating in responsible ways. Maintaining employment. Woohoo, yes, get that money. Attending recovery support meetings. And really having the follow through. That's very reassuring and comforting when you love an addict to see these behavioral changes. Because it doesn't really matter what someone says. What matters is what they do. What matters are the patterns that you recognize. And you're going to start seeing that. If they say, hey, Sunday, you and I are going to start a new tradition and we're going to, I don't know, make something up. We're going to go to the farmer's market every Sunday for the summer. Or for the fall. I don't know. When's farmers markets? Whenever they are. And they actually follow through every single Sunday. Or maybe every Sunday you go for a coffee. They're going to follow through every single Sunday. That's what's going to relax you. That's what's going to make you trust that maybe we have turned a corner. Because they're being consistent. They're having the follow through. They're really maintaining their promises to me. And say something happens on a Sunday, they communicate that with you. Oh man, hey, can we do Sunday a little later today because something came up? Hey, would it be okay if we skip Sunday? I mean, it's up to you. I got something going on, but I want to clear it with you first. Oh my God, fantastic. We feel really good in those relationships when we have that communication as well. And that's what you should be seeing in your loved one. Maybe life will start to get a little dull and boring. Ooh, I said it. Boring. That's a good thing. We all went from extreme chaos to calm. And we really want to savor that calm. Because it doesn't have to be drama anymore. We can just have routine and repetition and communication and follow through. The next one is accountability. Accountability is big. Okay? I know I don't always like taking accountability, but we have to do it. And you'll see your loved one with the year plus taking on more accountability, either good or bad situation. They'll own up and take it on. Because when our addicts were active in their addiction, they're not taking accountability for squat. Are you kidding? They will not. There's a lot of denial and blame and rage, manipulation, disappearing, or victimization of themselves. You'll find the very opposite after your loved one is in stable recovery. They're capable of hearing difficult things and processing through it. They're capable of communicating difficult things and processing through that. Let's give them their kudos for that growth. Okay, round of applause for accountability. Yay! The next one, healthier decision making. You're going to notice less impulsivity, better planning, fewer reckless choices, improved financial responsibilities, safer relationships, and healthier routines. They're going to build a life. That's what they're doing. That's the marker of someone who's stable in recovery. It's happening before the 1 year mark, but after that 1 year mark, that's what you should be looking at. A person building or maintaining a stable and consistent life. Making one right, good decision after the next. I just had this conversation with someone. He's, I don't know how many years in recovery, but over 2 years recovered, maybe even encroaching on 3 years. And he said, we were reflecting on his life, and he said, it's just fantastically amazing how one right choice after the next has brought me so far in this positive direction. And my life is so immensely different than it was, say, 5 years ago. It's just astronomical. It's hard to even conceptualize that life before versus the life now. And the fact that it was just achieved through one good decision after the next. And that's what you're going to see with your loved one. It's just one good choice after the next. Then there's the willingness to repair. It's not just about saying sorry. I hate that. I see that a lot in early recovery, like the first 60, 90 days. They just think that they can do whatever and just like, sorry, shut up, leave it alone, stop talking about it. I'm like, no, it's not about doing what you want and being rude and breaking rules and this and that and then saying sorry and expecting people to shut up and move on. This is not how it works. What you'll find with people in stable recovery is they're actually genuinely willing and able to repair. It's not just about saying sorry. It's about rebuilding the relationship, rebuilding the trust, the finances, the employment, attending to legal issues, having the personal integrity. It's progressive. It's not anything that's going to happen overnight. And, if you're not in the best spot to repair, then you're not in the best spot. That's fine. We all move at our own pace and manage and deal with this as we do. But they will be very willing to repair if that's possible for you guys. And that might mean your relationship looks differently now. There's a lot of things that happen to relationships when an addict is in recovery. Will yours stand the test of time? I don't know. Maybe that just means you'll have to redefine your relationship. But they'll be willing to do that. If you are, they are. Then we have this main point to notice in your loved one. Healthy independence. This can be triggering for some of us loved ones when our addicts are independent, because it might be triggering to your role. If you're the caregiver, the enabler, You're a little dependent or codependent on the addict and the situation. Their independence could be viewed or experienced as a threat. And that's something that we need to process here on our side. If someone becoming a better version of themselves is a threat to you, your identity, your future, your relationship, that's some work you got to focus on. But they should very much be independent. What does that really be looking like? What does it look like? Making their own appointments, managing their own finances, tending to their own recovery program and process, handling their own transportation, managing their emotions, having stable employment. Look, jobs end, but are they finding another one? Are they doing that on their own? And taking overall general responsibility for themselves. You are not inserting yourself in any of this. Okay? You're not saying, oh, I'll make your appointments. Oh, I'll balance your finances. Oh, I'll take care of this. I'll do that. That's you trying to insert yourself, trying to be controlling, trying to feel important, trying to not lose them. That's creating dependence. We don't want that. You should not want that. And if you're behaving like that, that's something that you need to tend to. We want them to be independent and regain control over their lives, over themselves and their lives. That's part of recovery. It's hard, but listen, we have to have it. Now, this can be triggering. Even say you're a parent and the one in recovery is maybe still a little bit younger. You might ask yourself, well, if I don't insert myself, if I don't control or monitor, what if they fail? What if they relapse? Shouldn't I intervene? Shouldn't I be there? Shouldn't I know what exactly they're doing in recovery, in those meetings? I get it. You've been traumatized, and when we're traumatized, it changes us. But this need to insert self into our loved ones' recovery or try to have them become dependent on us, and this threat to our own survival because they are independent, that's toxic, it's unhealthy, and you're not having a genuine relationship with them anyways. You're trying to control the narrative here, and that's not a real relationship. We need you to be healthy. We need you to recognize your ill patterns. And we need you to also level up. Because if they're over here leveling up, guess what happens if you don't? I'm not trying to scare you, but guess what happens? Let me tell you. There's a couple options, and it's not a debate. This is just how it plays out. I see it all the time. Someone levels up and you don't rise to join the occasion, they're going to drop you off. Y'all are going to distance from each other. Y'all aren't on the same wavelength anymore. They want you to level up. They want you to join them in this journey of becoming a better person. But if you refuse, that leaves them very few options because they're leveling up. They're not going to be interested in being weighed down by you as baggage. And if you're dead set on weighing them down, what's going to happen is you're going to try to, successfully or not, I'm not sure, but you're going to try to sabotage their recovery and you're going to try to make them relapse. And that's going to come from the subconscious. It's not intentional, or at least it's not in the forefront of your head, but that's the action you're going to take. So it really leaves our addicts at this crossroad of pulling away from you. They don't want to, but they need to for their recovery, or getting dragged back down by you. That's it. Those are the options. Which do you prefer? You have to ask yourself. Yes, it could be perceived as a threat when responsibility shifts back to the person in recovery, but that's an indication that you've got to do some work on yourself. If you really want to continue this relationship with your addict, with your loved one, you have to get a better grasp on your own stuff over here. Okay, the next one I have, which actually leads us into this point. How nice and smooth. I'm so smooth tonight. How relationships change in stable recovery. Ooh, triggering. Yes, triggering. We gotta discuss it. We gotta face this. Because relationship dynamics have to change, whether you like it or not. They have to. Think about it. How could they possibly stay the same? How could they possibly be how it was before the addiction? Because stuff was unhealthy before this whole thing spiraled. You can't expect them to revert to anything. Honestly, I mean, how cruel would you be to expect or desire your loved one to revert? We're not going backward. We're going up and away. No one's going backward. And they certainly aren't interested in going back either. Our relationships get damaged during recovery. Completely damaged. Pulverized, if you will. And rebuilding those relationships, it is a process. And there are going to be different terms and conditions moving forward. Whether you like it or not, that's just how it's got to go. That experience is very alive in you, how your addict was in their active addiction and the alterations to your nervous system, to your mental state, emotional state, physical state. You've established your own new pattern within that addiction of being guarded, being skeptical, being emotionally cautious, being hypervigilant, being a pessimist. You had to be those things to survive that experience. That was your trauma response. And now you have these new patterns that have been ingrained in you. No one expects you to just act like this shit didn't happen. This shit didn't just ruin your entire life. That you weren't completely altered by this. I don't want that, and I don't even think that's possible, honestly. This is your side of it. I know. Bullshit. They dropped this off on your doorstep, and now you gotta get rid of it somehow, and you don't even know what to do with this. How do you even dispose of this? But here I am. Thanks, I guess. Yeah, that's just... I hate to say it, the hand you were dealt, that's just the experience of it. That's our side of it here. We have to process all of these changes and this new ingrainment of patterns to move from this unhealthy coping mechanism that was developed and transform and transcend ourselves into a healthier state of being as well, alongside our addicts. That's how our relationships have to change. Because we have scars that we need tending to. And that's part of that list right there, are the scars of this. But our relationships, That has to be rebuilt. Now, let's move to the more positive note. What are going to be the relationship changes that we're going to notice swinging in that positive direction? Well, there should be clearer and improved communication, calmer, more honest. Maybe I'm going to say there should be very little to no manipulation. Now, reactivity, that could still be there. I think that's allowed just in life in general. We're all reactive, but you're going to see them under more control, and those reactions are going to be more in the normal range, what anyone would react to. Expect communication overall to be improved, especially if you're open and willing to improve the communication. That's a bit of the caveat here. If you're not willing to communicate with your addict, if you're not willing to have hard conversations or just explore and be honest with them, you can't expect that they'll be like that with you, because that's not how y'all function. So the more you're open and able to face these things, the more your addict will be willing to sit down and have that communication with you. And honestly, someone 1 year plus really wants that with you. They want to have this communication change with you. We'll also see family roles begin to shift. Check out our episodes all on family roles. The hero, the scapegoat. I call them the scapegoaty. The caretaker, the rescuer, the lost child, so forth. We have all the roles in there episode. You can check it out. But we adapt these roles during the dysfunction of addiction. Everyone is responding out of survival. And depending how long the addiction occurred, who had the addiction, what the dynamics were of this in the home, these roles can become ingrained in people. But if my role, for example, was the caretaker, my identity could very well be wrapped up in the fact that I'm a caretaker. You're the addict, I'm the caretaker. My purpose every day is to care for you and clean up after you. And that's really my purpose in life. When you're no longer an addict, what happens to me in my role? It has to transcend. And that can be jarring for me because my essence is wrapped up in it, because I find purpose in it. I have some control over this chaos in that role. I might be reluctant to loosen my grip on it, but it will have to shift. It has to. Otherwise, I'll sabotage my loved one to try to coerce them back into playing this game with me so that I can fulfill my role if I'm reluctant to transcend it. Recovery disrupts these roles, and that's confronting and jarring and dysregulating to the loved ones. And it can create some tension, but that's okay. We're going to need to adapt. Just like we adapted to their addiction, we're going to now need to adapt to their recovery, to adapt to a healthier state of being and lifestyle. Hopefully, that's what we want anyways, but it can be upsetting when you feel forced. Like, no one wants to be forced into change. I prefer to do it on my own timeline. And an addict can sometimes ruffle us in the fact that they threw this bomb on us, and then after years of begging them to get clean, they finally did, and they're in recovery, and now they're changing all the terms and conditions to everything, and they're like, hey, if you still want a relationship with me, you've got to be different. You've got to change. You've got to clean up. You've got to heal from this trauma that I dumped on you. And you got to do it now because I'm better and you got to get better now. Excuse the fuck out of me. That's how it feels. Well, I'm still mad. I'm not ready to move on. I haven't healed. What does that even mean? How do I even do that? That's where that sandpaper, the grit comes into play. A little resentment, a little anger, angst. That's okay. On top of all that, we could still be struggling with letting go, with trusting the process, trusting the fact that they are recovered. This won't happen again. They won't relapse. I mean, how could I ever even trust that? Reluctant to give our loved ones the space to change and grow. It's jarring. It's very jarring. Yet, this is what you're going to see in someone with a year plus of recovery time. The question really is, are you willing, because I know you're able, are you willing to address the things that are on your side of this? Of course, you're allowed your own timeline. Your timeline is not theirs. It doesn't have to even be linked. You're allowed to process in your own time, and you should. And you should never feel forced. But my question remains, are you going to level up? Because they sure as fuck are. Moving on to my favorite word in the dictionary. A word that you hate that I say. Boundary. That's right, baby. We're talking about boundaries. These are going to be ongoing when we have a loved one with a year plus of recovery. Boundaries are good. They are healthy. They're vital. They are essential. And we're also allowed to navigate that a little bit to try to figure out or sort out what exactly do we want a boundary to be, what exactly it looks like. Does this feel good? Do I need to change it? There's some fluidity with boundaries. I will say the fluidity should be in the conceptualizing what the boundary is and how exactly it will look like. That's where the fluidity is. It's never going to be in the upholding of boundary. The upholding, that's rebar enforced concrete steel post to the crust of the core of the earth. That's stable. That ain't going nowhere. You ain't moving that a little bit. The other parts you can play with a little bit, but play with those parts and then get real solid on how exactly you are upholding the boundaries and never, ever falter or waver from that at all. Because you're going to also notice this with your loved one. They are going to start asserting boundaries with you. Again, your feathers are getting fucking ruffled. And that's okay. Giving you that little noogie on your head and messing up your hair. That's just how it's got to be. They have to change the terms and conditions to everything in their life, and they're trying to navigate that, which means your relationship dynamics will change and boundaries are going to be a little bit different. This may include financial changes, expectations around communication and honesty, as well as standards around communication, plans, or I call them emergency evacuation plans around relapse, household arrangements or agreements, emotional respect, and personal accountability. These can be on your side. They can also be on your addict's side. It's really good to take a look at these things for yourself, for your own stability. The great thing is that our boundaries are going to be less driven by crisis and that volatility, that short-term strategy stuff. It's less of that, and it's more long-term strategy, long-term stability, long-term relationship status. That's how the healthy stuff. We really get to move into that healthy zone now. The boundaries also become less about trying to control them, because that's a big tendency we have when our loved ones have an addiction, is control and this fear around control. They're less around that. They're about stability and sustaining the relationship and rebuilding, moving forward. And you know what? Healthy recovery includes healthy limits. And that's what I want us to think about boundaries. It's a healthy limit. Think about it. Speed limits. We got them for safety reasons, right? In residential, you go this fast. In school zone, you go that fast. On the highway, you go this fast. Jeez, on the highway in Arizona in the middle of dead nothing, you can go even faster. We have limits, and there are certain terms and conditions to the limits depending on where we are and other circumstances and context. We need the limits. You want the limits. Maybe sometimes you don't like the limits. I know I don't. But I also know there are people out here crazier than me, and I would prefer that we all have the same limits. You know what I'm saying? We like limits. Speaking of celebrating, we were talking about that earlier. Celebrating milestones. We love celebrating. We love recognizing our loved ones, and we should. Even if we're a little critical, unsure, afraid to get our hearts broken, that's okay. But these milestones matter. 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, so on. When they start a new career, when they're repairing their parental relationships, when they're rebuilding trust with you or others, when they're having emotional breakthroughs, when they handle the situation completely different than they would have prior. I want us to step outside of our own selves and clap and cheer for our addicts. Who gives a fuck if they relapse tomorrow? Today, we cheer them on, because sometimes we withhold our praise because we're scared they'll get complacent or it'll all crumble tomorrow. Look, we're living in the moment. Right here, right now, they're 30 days. Right here, right now, they're 1 year. Right here, right now, they got a new job on a new career. Right here, right now, they're going back to school for a new career. Whatever the thing is, cheer them the fuck on. Like you are a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Cheer them on how you would want to be cheered on. If you put an immense amount of effort into personal development, into rescuing yourself, into completely overhauling your entire life, a whole stadium full of applause. How can we do that for them? I want us to start fulfilling that validation aspect for our loved ones, because you don't see all that they change. I see it on the inside of the rehab. And even though I see it on the rehab, I still don't fully see it for each person, how much they're actually doing. But they're investing so much. They're making so many changes. They're confronting so many things. We've got to stop withholding the love and admiration for them and just really proclaim, I'm so proud of you. I appreciate you. You're amazing. I love you. Whatever your thing is, just cheer them on. That's going to help build momentum. That's going to help them feel like this validation and this boost. Most of that comes from them, but they deserve to be recognized and cheered by their loved ones. And I know you're sitting back, Amanda, like, do you know how many times we've gotten to the 1 year mark and they relapsed? You know, like, what do you want me to throw them a cake and a birthday party, or what do we call it? Recovery party? We can't guarantee anything about tomorrow or the next 10 minutes. Can't guarantee anything about you or your decisions or me or your loved one. Who knows what any of this is going to equate to or what's going to happen tomorrow. That's not enough of an excuse for me or for you to withhold this admiration for our loved ones. It's not enough. What are some misconceptions we might have around recovery? If they relapse, everything was fake. The relapse rate, I believe it's opioids, is about 92% in the first year. 92% of people relapse in the first year. I believe it's opioids. After that year, like all of the studies, all of those statistics, I think the marijuana statistic is just like 6 months. It's either a 6 month marker or it's a 1 year marker. After that 1 year marker, the rate of relapse drops, tanks, nosedives. I'm not saying you're totally in the clear, that they will never relapse, that relapse doesn't happen after 1 or 2 decades, because it does. What I'm saying is they really turn a corner after 1 year. Even if they do relapse, none of this is fake. None of the work was wasted. None of the cheers or applause were in vain. It takes work. It's not a straight shot. We all make mistakes. We don't want to minimize relapsing, but this is all genuine, whether or not it comes crumbling down tomorrow or not. Okay, the next misconception. I should trust them immediately as long as they're sober. Remember, sober just means they stopped using. It doesn't mean they've put in any work, that they've developed themselves, that they've changed their lifestyle, that anything else is different. And as you know, everything's got to be different to have a different outcome. Eventually, they'll go back. If they're just stopped using, it's just a matter of time before they go back. I did that with my sister. She detoxed with me twice. On 2 occasions, she came to Nashville to detox with me. And she stayed sober for about 4 weeks. And then returned to using. Because she didn't do any other work. She didn't address the trauma. She wasn't in a program. She didn't have support. She wasn't changing anything about her life. That's where that just stop using, that whole adage that we have as loved ones, they just need to stop using. That's why it doesn't work. And I don't want you trusting them immediately just because they're sober. It doesn't mean enough. You really have to do more work than that. The next misconception: if they're truly recovered, life should become easy. Man, I wish. Yeah, recovery improves their life. Hopefully, it also is improving yours. We all have barriers on that and things we're going to have to adjust and heal from within that. But recovery on its own does not remove the fact that there's stress and grief, mental health struggles, trauma, pain. All of that remains, and all of that has to be addressed. And a lot of that's going to be stagnant far into recovery, perhaps into that stable 1 year plus recovery. Especially if, I'd say your parent or even your partner is the one who has the addiction, you're not going to fully trust them after 1 year. There's still pain there. That relationship hasn't fully been repaired. We still have things to work on. And life is not just going to be easy because they've recovered. Have you done your work? And even if you have, now you got to do work together on that relationship. A stable recovery is just learning how to manage or be in life without returning to destruction. And we're still navigating that. How does the family's recovery look with our loved ones having 1 year plus? Often you get overlooked. Often it feels like they've recovered and you should too, or you're behind, hurry up. That's part of my whole mission here to serve the loved ones of addicts, is because I know you feel left behind. I know you get traumatized and then people are looking at you like, hurry up, fix it, move on. Oh, I said sorry. Can't you stop being angry at me and get over it? I made my amends with you. What do you want? I understand how infuriating that is. That's why I'm your Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I'm your pillar, steel pillar, pounded into the core of the earth. That's what I am for you over here. Because you have your process and you've got to heal from all of this experience. All this time of loving an addict has created chronic anxiety, emotional exhaustion, trauma responses, hypervigilance, resentment, codependency, identity loss, a shift in identity. There's a lot of stuff here that has changed for you, or a lot of things that have been ingrained in you. You've spent so many years trying to manage them or manage the day, just trying to get through the next moment, that you've abandoned your life altogether. You really had to. How we can start processing on our side, how we can start getting involved in that recovery process for ourselves, is learning about boundaries, reconnecting socially, rebuilding our hobbies, finding our support groups. By the way, come over here with me to Kinley Society. I have a community just for the loved ones of addicts, and that's what we do over there. We support, we learn, we grow, we connect. We got Q&As. We got all kinds of fun stuff over there. So I could be your support group. Go to therapy. Take that process of restoring marriages. I'm not sure what all needs to be restored in there. I'll bet a lot. How are we going to go about doing that? Are we using therapy? I'm not sure. But how are we restoring that marriage if it's possible? Trying to recover ourselves financially. Maybe some of us had financial ruin because of our addicts. This overall rediscovering peace and what it means to have peace again or have peace for the first time. And this is also an emotional experience. Just because the chaos ended, just because our loved ones are a year plus, doesn't mean we don't feel or grieve. Especially grief. I mean, the lost time, the lost trust, all the years lost, the years spent in survival mode, all the lost experiences. You've lost a lot. And we have to process all of those things. That's part of our side of this. This whole stable recovery thing, it's not perfection. It's not flawless. They're not flawless. You're not flawless. Well, maybe you're a little flawless. I mean, come on. We got to recognize when recognition is due. Okay, you are a little flawless. This is about consistency, responsibility, emotional growth, honesty, accountability, healthier relationships, and gradually restoring trust. How it looks is a person rebuilding their life, a person learning how to live a life, rather than just avoiding a substance. It's finally exhaling. It's finally relaxing for you. Finally discovering peace and healing for you. Realizing that your life no longer has to or needs to revolve entirely around your addict and their crisis and their turmoil. If your loved one has a year plus, we want to recognize that, proclaim that, celebrate that, protect that, respect that, and do our work alongside that. Also recognizing that your healing is important. It's not just one person. Not just one person was impacted, and not just one person can recover. It's all of us together. And when we do that, gotcha! Man, you're so easy. I'm always catching you like that. That's our episode on what it looks like to have a loved one with 1 year plus in recovery. What our part is, how that looks like, how that's going to play out for us. I know that you gained value from that. I know that you're now better versed on what to be looking for and what your role is in all of this. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, do widzenia.